Has it ever happened to you that life crushed you right at the moment when you thought something good was about to begin? Maybe it wasn't just coincidence. Maybe that breaking was the sign that God had chosen you, because God breaks the one He intends to use, but not to destroy them, rather to prepare them. He tears you away from everything that keeps you anchored to a false life. He loosens your grip on what seems stable, but holds you back from growing. He doesn't anoint before breaking. He doesn't multiply before He breaks. He doesn't lift up until He empties. And maybe your pain is nothing more than a divine invitation. When God wants to wake you up, He begins by separating you. He disturbs your comfort, removes people from your life, shakes the ground beneath your feet, not to punish you, but to raise you. Look at Abraham. God didn't give him a detailed plan. He simply told him to go, to leave his land, his home, everything he knew, because sometimes God can't show you what's next until you're willing to let go of what is. When you lose a job, when you're betrayed, when you end up in a city where no one knows your name, maybe it's not failure, maybe it's calling, maybe it's the school of destiny, because you don't realize how much you relied on money, on status, on people, until God takes them away to show you He is the source, not them. The breaking is not your ending, it's the threshold. Sometimes God cuts ties, cuts relationships, cuts opportunities, not out of anger, but out of mercy. Because what feeds you today could destroy you tomorrow. That relationship made you feel seen, but poisoned your self-worth. That job gave you income, but stole your intimacy with God. And so, He steps in, like a surgeon. He cuts, not to hurt, but to heal. Maybe you don't see the salvation yet, because you're still bleeding. But healing often begins in pain. Blessing isn't always keeping everything. Sometimes, it's surviving the loss. Jonah ran. He was swallowed by a fish. It looked like punishment, but it was protection. And you, what did God take from your hand to save your heart? They say that long ago, in the old city of Jerusalem, lived a man named Eleazar. He was honest, righteous, and God-fearing, and his heart burned for a beautiful woman, whom he loved with all his soul. He wanted to be her husband, to build her a home, to honor her for the rest of his life. But the woman left him for a man who promised her the riches of this world, without a word, without a reason. She went to another man, and Eleazar was left alone, heartbroken. For years he carried that pain in prayer, asking why God had allowed such an emptiness in his life. But God did not answer then, not until much later, when Eleazar had stopped asking. One day, a gentle woman came to him, pure-hearted, soft-spoken. She asked for nothing. She simply stayed close. She loved him with no demands, understood him without words. She became his wife, gave him children, taught him what peace truly is. And then, Eleazar understood. The woman who left was permission, but the woman who loved him was blessing. God didn't take love from him. He took the illusion so He could give the truth. What God broke was to make you whole. What He ended was so you could begin. When you lose what wasn't meant for you, you make room for what was. When you are broken, silence settles in, and only then you begin to hear. The world screams. The wicked one shouts your name, but God whispers, and His whisper you only hear when you come close. Moses didn't hear God's voice in Pharaoh's palace. He heard it after 40 years in the wilderness, among sheep, alone. There, beside a burning bush, God spoke. Because before using Moses for Israel, God had to empty him of Egypt and of Pharaoh's ways. Intimacy with God is not born in applause, it's born in silence, where the idols of performance collapse, where stillness becomes an altar. When you stop running to be heard, you finally begin to listen. A potter was working one day at his wheel, shaping a clay vessel, but the vessel was marred in his hands. The potter did not stop. He didn't throw the clay away. He broke it gently and began again, shaping a vessel more beautiful than the first. It was the same piece of clay, just a new form. And so are you. God doesn't throw you away. He reshapes you. Breaking shatters the illusion of self-sufficiency. There is a pride that looks like confidence, that sounds like competence, but it's not faith. And when God wants to use you, He's not trying to impress you. He's trying to save you from the lie that you can do it without Him. My power is made perfect in weakness. Because only when you admit you can't, are you ready to receive what only He can give? The alabaster box was beautiful, but it had no purpose until it was broken. Only then did its fragrance fill the room. Maybe the most precious thing inside you is trapped within the shell of your strength, and God has to break it so the aroma can come out. David was anointed king, but he lived in caves. He cried, he was hunted, because before the throne, he had to learn what fire meant. Gideon had thousands of soldiers. God left him with only 300, not because he needed less power, but because he won't share his glory with human ego. Maybe you haven't lost influence. Maybe you've lost interference. Maybe you're not being humiliated. Maybe you're being sanctified. Christ took the bread, He blessed it, He broke it, and only then did He give it. The order never changes: blessing, breaking, giving. If you've made it this far, maybe you feel like part of this message is also about you. Maybe you're going through a season where everything seems to be falling apart. Doors closing, people leaving, the person you used to be no longer there. But maybe that's the proof that God is at work, that He's breaking you, not to stop you, but to transform you. Don't fear the silence. Don't run from the breaking. Don't despise the painful beginnings, because right there, in pain, in silence, in loss, the birth of a new life begins. And when everything settles again, you'll realize you were never abandoned. You were being prepared. If these words touch something in your soul, write in the comments, "Lord, I surrender to the breaking so you can birth the blessing." And if you feel someone else needs to hear this, share it. God only breaks what He intends to use. And maybe He's starting with you. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support me, you can subscribe to the channel. If something you heard today spoke to you, give it a like. Stay, listen, come back for more. In the beginning, it was just me. Now, it's us. Here, you don't come searching for crowds. You come looking for truth. Truth that rests well in silence. Until next time, I hope you find your own path, too.